What's up, everybody? We have reached double digits, episode number 10 of the Big Five pod. It's crazy, but hey, we love it. I'm your co-host Kyle Morello, and across from me, next to me, whichever way you want to look on Zoom, Jake Copestick. How we doing?
We're doing well. We're doing well. I was able to watch a lot of basketball this weekend. I was at the Palestra for Temple Penn, and then I spent all day at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn yesterday watching the second half of Iona St. Bonaventure. I saw Virginia Tech play Oklahoma State. Really big game between two top 15s in Maryland and Tennessee, which was a really, really good game. It literally felt like it was an NCAA tournament atmosphere. So that was awesome. And then I stayed for the late game to watch Hofstra and get a look at UMass, who we'll be talking about for St. Joe's and LaSalle when conference play starts up in the A10. So it was a good weekend. I saw a lot of basketball. Unfortunately, it wasn't great this morning when I woke up and in the world of college basketball, we obviously saw all the Chris Beard news going on. So that was sad stuff to see. But outside of that, hey, it was a great weekend for me. I got to watch a lot of basketball. How about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I also went to that Penn Temple game, which was a fun atmosphere, but not a fun result for the Owls. As an alma mater, obviously, I want to be impartial on the podcast, and I always am when the analysis and everything. But that's my alma mater, so I am a Temple fan. I think you guys know that. And it was tough to watch a little bit for the Owls, but we'll get into that a little bit. But yeah, no, Chris Beard news was horrible. You never want to see that. And I don't want to, I'm not going to speculate anything because very fresh in the last less than 24 hours here. So we don't know what we don't know. The other thing I wanted to say doesn't relate to college basketball, but does relate to college football. Prayers to Mike Leach. I heard he had a massive heart attack and isn't doing the best right now. So prayers for Coach Leach. He's one of the national treasures of college sports, college football in particular. Revolutionized every level of college football in the last 5-6 years with the air raid offense. Literally Monday Night Football, when we're recording this right now, the Cardinals are playing and they kind of have an air raid offense. Cliff Kingsbury played for Mike Leach at Texas Tech. So yeah, tough to see. So hopefully he's okay. Also not going to try to talk too loud because my roommate has a final project's got to turn in tomorrow. So Joe, you did it. Semester's over. Congratulations. One more to go for him in grad school. So that's pretty cool. All right. Well, we're gonna get in some games here because there was a lot this weekend. And obviously we're gonna lead our show with the lead of the weekend, which was Temple having a chance to clinch the outright Big Five title and coming up short. They lost to the Quakers 77-57 at the Palestra on Saturday. Jordan Dingle with 30 points, another 30 piece for Jordan Dingle. Actually, they announced this after the game, which is really interesting, that he broke the record for most points in Big Five games in a single season. I forget the exact number. Don't quote me on it, but very, very impressive feat for him. So shout out Jordan Dingle. That's impressive. I already said, but yeah, that was awesome for you. Max Martz with 14 points on 6 of 8 shooting for the Quakers too. Lucas Monroe also wanted to give him a shout out because watching him play, don't really expect a ton from him offensively, but hit a couple threes, 10 points for them. Definitely contributed, definitely kept Temple on its toes and kept them out of the game. As for the Owls, Jameel Reynolds, 13-9, 6 of 11 shooting, actually a pretty good game. Just wasn't out there long enough because, maybe he's not in the greatest shape right now. You saw John Cook and you saw Nick Jourdain in the game too, probably more often than you would like for the Owls. So that's something we could talk about. Caleb Battle, 14 points and 4 of 11 shooting. Temple starters had 12 turnovers combined, 15 total as a team. They were never in front, really. Their largest lead of the game was 2 points. You never really felt like they were going to, take that leap to pull away and show that they were the more talented team, though they didn't have the best player on the court, but they were the more talented team. The refs also in this game were brutal, which we can get to toward the end of this. But what were your thoughts on this game?
So my initial thought for this game was just that this was literally Temple's season in a microcosm right here. John Rothstein tweeted out that this Temple team, they could win the AAC tournament and get in to the NCAA tournament. They might even be able to win a game in the NCAA tournament, or this team could legitimately finish under 500. that's literally the range of outcomes this team. And I thought this game was the perfect microcosm of just kind of how their season went. And unfortunately, just the team that Temple is right now. They're extremely inconsistent. They will win good games, but they will also lose very bad games and cancel out those good wins. And in a game like this, where you have a chance to clinch the Big Five title, Clark Slacker doesn't play in a third straight game for Penn, and they get run off the floor. They just did not have it in this game. Penn on the boards, on offense, on defense, energy. Penn had everything going for them, and Temple really had nothing. I mean, there's another game where Damian Dunn is not getting the double figures. They need to get him going if they want to be good, because they don't have too many microwave scores like him and Caleb Battle who can really pour it in. You saw Damian Dunn lead Division I in scoring, and now the last couple of games he just hasn't been there for the Owls. But this to me was just what their season was in a nutshell so far. Penn, who without Clark Slacker, pretty reliant on Jordan Dingle. We know that's how it's going to go. He had a great game, obviously, with 30 points, like you mentioned, breaking Cliff Anderson from St. Joe's Big Five record for points. The highest amount of points anybody's had in Big Five competition since 1966 and 1967. I mean, that's incredible to see that kind of scoring prowess we haven't seen in years. But for Temple, they got killed on the glass. They got killed on backdoor cuts. Guys were just running right in front of guys' faces, going to the rim for layups. Guys were getting open threes. Lucas Monroe had some open ones. And although he's not a great 3-point shooter, if you're going to leave him open like that, anybody can knock him down. So shout out to him, because like you said, it's nice to see him stretch the floor and give him some offense. He's the ultimate glue guy for this team. But if he can pour in some threes for you, Penn's going to be a player, definitely. But the Owls, it's just disappointing to see this. Like, they really had a good opportunity again to string together another win, to win the Big Five title outright, and then to come out flat like they did. And they made a little bit of a run in the second half. Caleb Battle had a nice and one that got the game close, but then they lost it after that. So that, to me, my one thought leaving this game was that this was the summation of Temple season so far. They are incredibly inconsistent. There's an extremely wide range of outcomes at the end of the year this team could be. They could be a tournament team. They could also be in the bottom half of the AAC and maybe finish under 500. So to me, this was Temple's season in one game. They came out flat. They never had it the whole game. On offense, on defense, energy-wise, Penn had everything going for him. Temple just didn't have it. It's disappointing because this team has all the talent to be able to be a winner and to be a contender. They just didn't have it Sunday or Saturday. So, and of course, hey, if you think the Big Five's had a weird season, Temple, who was going for the outright title, lost to Penn, who had yet to win a game in the Big Five. And they spoil it. Villanova now has a chance to clinch a Big Five title along with Temple on Saturday. But for Temple, like, this is really disappointing to see again. They can't really get over the hump. It seems like they can't really hit a stride here and get going. But it was disappointing. But yeah, like I said, this was Temple season in a nutshell in one game. Inconsistent, just didn't have it, came out flat, killed him in the end.
Yeah, it was brutal. Especially, it was frustrating during, especially the early part of the second half, but even a little bit later after Temple made their run. Like, when Temple was still making shots, they just left the back door open, probably at least 4 or 5 straight possessions, and then some more after that. Like, it was just brutal that Penn was getting a ton of easy looks from point blank range. Obviously, Dingle was making his shots in the mid range and 3, and Lucas Monroe we talked about, and some other guys contributing too, but they were just not. I don't know. I would have to go back and look at the film. I haven't been able to do so yet, but being at the game, like, I don't know if they just weren't switching properly or if there were miscommunications. I know there'd been a little bit of a problem in the past, but like, usually this team can lock down when they need to, and they were not able to do it at all against Penn. I know you're not going to be able to defend Jordan Dingle the entire game. That's not realistic. And I think they knew that too, but like, letting them have such easy shots was just baffling. So I think Coach McKee needs to go to the drawing board. There's really nothing else to it. And maybe even just more than the X's and O's, maybe it's getting them to just play together. And, Damian Dunn also, I want to talk about him, did not have a good game at all, was forcing shots. And listen, I don't want to say that, oh, you should stop shooting when you're getting cold, right? You know what always Kobe said and Deion Waiter said about, like, keep shooting when you're in cold streaks, because, if you're a really good shooter, they're bound to go in. And Damian Dunn is a good shooter, but it was that and the turnovers, and just like, it was awful from him. really the team as a whole, they have to. I mean, they have to figure it out. That's really
Yeah,
all I can say.
they're just not consistent. I don't feel like they're playing up to the standard that they can play at every game, and that's what's killing them. But on Penn side, yeah, I mean, Dingle was incredible. Another 30 points. Even with Clark Slackard out, I mean, he's one of the few guys in college basketball that can shoulder the load. I mean, believe he was third in D1 in scoring going into this game. I would imagine with another 30 ball, he probably might slide up to two, and maybe take Sam Sessoms from Coppin State spot. But he really is an NBA scorer. He can make the three. He can finish. He's a great vertical athlete, being able to dunk the ball and to get up for layups. But between the rim and inside the 3-point line, I mean, he can stop on a dime and his great body control to be able to put floaters up, to be able to put a little push shot or a mid-range jumper up over taller guys. Like, he really is an incredibly gifted scorer. But a guy I wanted to give a shout out to was Andrew Lachowski from Penn, because to me, he was the difference in this game. Penn didn't have any bench points except for his 7. And not to say that those guys didn't contribute, but 7 points from Andrew Lachowski. He had the huge dunk on Hysier Miller in the second half that kind of blew the roof off the place, and I thought gave Penn that jolt to finish the game. But how about for him in 14 minutes? He's only played in 5 games this year. In 14 minutes, not only does he give you 7 points, he gives you 9 rebounds, 5 of which were on the offensive end. He had the dunk, he had a 3, and then he had a basket where he grabbed an offensive rebound and put up a layup. He gave him great minutes, great energy on both ends, but especially on the glass, keeping possessions alive for him. So I wanted to give him a shine because he really did play a good game. And here's another guy in the Big Five coming off the bench that's going to play himself into some more minutes coming up here. But he was huge. In addition to these other guys too, Max Martz, Lucas Monroe, Jonah Charles, they gave Penn 2 3-pointers apiece. So this was a great team win for Penn. Jordan Dingle was terrific, but this was a great team win for Penn. They played connected. They played with great energy on both ends. Andrew Lachowski gave them a huge spark. This Temple team, man, they're frustrating. They just are. Like, it wouldn't even shock me if they knocked off Houston. If they beat Houston one time this year and then they were to lose to like Wichita State or like South Florida. Like, it really wouldn't surprise me just because of how inconsistent and how high and low this team is. But it's just disappointing. They just can't seem to string together like 4 or 5 wins. They don't really seem to be playing like extremely connected with each other. I don't really know what to pinpoint there, but this was they just didn't have it. They were flat. Penn deserved this game. In my opinion, Temple didn't do anything to deserve a win here. I don't know what it was, but they were just in a funk all
They were
game.
flat. They came out
Couldn't get
flat.
anything going consistently offensively. But you got to give this to Penn. You playing without Clark Slackard is a great team win to lead them into the holiday break now, because they're not going to play until after Christmas. They have a tune-up against Wilkes University in D3 before they start conference play. So really good way to end a nice vacation stretch here for Penn, but very disappointing. Very, very disappointing if you're Temple. I mean, they've had some bad losses this year with the overtime losses to Wagner and Vanderbilt at home, but to me, this might actually be the worst one, in my opinion. I think this actually might be the worst one. The Wagner loss coming the first game of the year. Okay, you can get past it, move on. Don't have that set the tone for your season. But to have this, I mean, this is a big problem, man. This is a huge problem to come out flat like this and to have games where they're on or they're off and just can't consistently play with the same effort every night. So very, very disappointing for the Owls.
Yeah, especially coming off a win streak like they were, and then, with implications too. I know it's maybe the Big Five doesn't mean as much to some people as it used to. It means a lot to us, believe me. Believe me, it means a lot to us. But they just came out flat with a chance to come home with something that means something to some people, and hopefully them. I know Coach McKee definitely. So yeah, very frustrating to say the least, but I think we said all we can say on it, so we'll move on. We did have another inner city matchup, though not a Big Five, a City Six. Drexel and LaSalle. Drexel beating LaSalle 65-58 in overtime. A very weird and low scoring game. From this one, they did not shoot particularly well on either side. LaSalle shot 35% from the field. Drexel shot 34%. LaSalle 26% from 3 and Drexel 17% from 3. So it was a kind of an ugly game. Amari Williams 16-10 for the Dragons. We mentioned Coltrane. Washington had the best name possibly in college basketball. And of course, he stepped up. 21 points and 6 of 13 shooting for him. So good game from two of their best guys for the Dragons. Now for the Explorers, Enmore Gill, 15 points on 7 of 16 shooting. Rokas Joshi is continuing his exceptional play, 12 and 6 off the bench. Did outplay Mamadou Ducouré, which we've been seeing. Wasn't a ton. I think it was like 25 to 16 or something like that. I guess it's fairly significant. So definitely something to keep monitoring. Salle had 10 turnovers in this one as well, though, and they were out rebounded 51 to 41. So in this really ugly affair against another Philly team, what did you take away from the Explorers' performance?
So this game was a total rock fight. Zach Spiker was quoted on the broadcast saying that against the Fran Dunphy team, like he knew it was going to be, points were going to be a premium here, and it was going to be a tough game for both teams. So a lot of good defense played on both sides. Obviously, a lot of missed shots. Neither team shot great, but the scoring for LaSalle was just really inconsistent. It just kind of came and went. You look at overtime; they only scored 5 points. After leading for a good chunk of the first half, you're only scoring 5 points in overtime. So unfortunately, offensively, just they didn't string together 40 good minutes. The rebounding killed them. Drexel 17 offensive rebounds, a lot of second chance points. That's what's going to kill you in the end. Even if you don't play that well, if you can crash the glass, you can give yourself more possessions. And that's why Drexel ended up with a win here. But the bigs here played very well for LaSalle, and especially in the first half. Amari Williams only had 2 points in the first half against the bigs. They walled up very well. They didn't allow him to catch the ball deep in the post, and they forced him into some tough shots. But Amari Williams, like I said, he's one of the best centers in mid-major basketball. He leads this Drexel team in scoring. But even though he didn't have a great first half, he had 12 in the second half, 11 rebounds. But how about 4 blocks? I mean, this guy was blocking everything inside late in the first half and in the second half as well. He was playing really good defense in the paint. Obviously, Coltrane Washington had a good game. He had 3 of the 4 Drexel threes. Luke House was the only other guy who was able to connect from deep for the Dragons. So nobody shot the ball well here. But for LaSalle, they got to get Josh Nickelberry going. He only had 2 points in this game. And especially when you're down Khalil Brantley. And Mark Gill's been playing well. I mean, maybe he didn't shoot the ball that well this game, but he's been playing well, has been very aggressive on the offensive end. But they really need to get Josh Nickelberry going here and have him scoring. And Anwar Gill has been doing his part scoring-wise with Brantley out. They need Nickelberry to start giving him something too, so they can have a nice trio on the perimeter with Gill, with Brickus, and then with him as well. But yeah, Rokas Josias, like I said, he last episode, he's going to be getting a lot more minutes, and he's deserved it ever since he came back from his injury. He's been playing very well offensively. He knocked down 2 threes in the first half of this game. However, he didn't score in the second half. Points were the premium here. Like I said, the post defense was very good from Amari Williams, forcing tough shots and blocking shots in the second half. Unfortunately, he didn't have any points, but Rokas, he played very well in the first half offensively. He's just so big. He can really back you down in the paint and get some easy ones, but he knocked down 2 threes as well. So it wouldn't shock me to maybe see him even make a jump in the starting lineup if the coaching staff is comfortable with it, because if he can actually somewhat consistently hit a 3 and stretch the floor for them, he's going to open up a lot of room for these guys to drive and get to the hole. So something to keep your eye on. Obviously he outplayed, like you said, he outplayed Mamadou Ducouré in this game, but they weren't able to get it done. Offensively, Josias, great first half, but on the glass, these guys just got killed. That's what it was. Missed shots. Drexel was crashing the glass very well from the perimeter and on the weak side to get rebounds. So unfortunately for LaSalle, they seem to kind of miss Jameer Brickus, not Jameer Brickus. They seem to miss Khalil Brantley here, my bad, and getting some offense going for him when they really needed it. They couldn't pull this one out. Bad offensive game from them in overtime, only scoring the 5 points. But the rebounds here is what ended up killing them. You give up 17 offensive rebounds. You allowed Drexel, who did not shoot the ball well, to continue to get more possessions and get more looks. That's what the problem was here. So unfortunately, maybe I don't want to say the Tom Gola statue gave him bad luck, but we said, hey, maybe if they win, they can be 1-0 since the Tom Gola statue got put up. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case here. So good win for Zach Spiker. I know it's always a big deal for Drexel when they can get big 5 wins. And hey, although it wasn't pretty, winning is pretty. I'll say that. And they were able to get one here. So congrats to the Dragons. They hadn't won a game against any other Big 5 opponents before Saturday, and they were able to pick up a win in Tom Gola Arena.
Yeah, no, winning, even when it's not pretty, it's I don't know where my train of thought was going, but winning cures all is pretty much where I was going with that. So definitely a good win for Drexel. Listen, we knew the bigs were going to be an issue going in, especially Amari Williams that we talked about, and he played really well. They did well against him in the first half, like you said, only 2 points. And Rokas Jokcic was really impressive offensively, but ultimately, I think they kind of just got worn down trying to stop him and ended up losing in overtime, which is unfortunate. But there's still a lot of still a lot of hope with this LaSalle team, especially when Khalil Brantley comes back. So it'll be interesting to see where they go from here. Both Drexel and LaSalle now are 5-5 in the season, so teetering on that 500 line, both of them. All right, we're gonna move on to the Never Forget Tribute Classic that was played on Saturday, where Villanova took on Boston College, and well, they dominated them. There's really nothing else to say there. 77-56 victory for the Wildcats. Nova shot 44% from the field, but 48% from three. One of those rare reverse splits. That's a baseball term, but one of those rare reverse splits for Nova. Cam Whitmore shining once again. 19 points, 7 rebounds, 6 of 12 from the field, 26 minutes this time. So he's kind of gone up in little increments like we kind of imagined he would. Which is definitely great to see. Mark Armstrong with a good game too, 13-7, 4 of 10 shooting, not the most efficient night in the world, but 13-7 is pretty good for a young guy. In a game where, I think we predicted this last week, where it's one of those games where like other people can start to shine, see what they're made of. Maybe not Chris Archidiakono again, which is probably for the best. No offense, Chris. But they got some guys there, and they did also force 14 turnovers from Boston College. So great game all around. Wasn't really a difficult one for them. They were up by as much as 24 at one point. What did you anything really to take away from this game? I mean, I know it was kind of an inferior opponent to them, but what did you think?
So 2 things that stuck out to me in particular. Number one, we've talked all season about, the move from Jay Wright to Kyle Neptune. Jay Wright, a guy notoriously who doesn't really play as freshman. And the freshman really had some of the best performances on this team in that game. Obviously, Cam Whitmore is still coming off the bench. He will start at some point. I don't really see, and it really doesn't matter who starts if he's going to play a lot of minutes. But I just think we're at the point, like, you've seen enough from him. There's no limitations or minutes restrictions on him anymore from his injury. We can start him over Chris Archidiakono. You can even play him more minutes if you feel that you have to. But obviously, you talked about him with the 19 points. Mark Armstrong, a Jersey City native, not playing too far from his hometown. He probably had a lot of friends and family there. Probably his best game as a Wildcat with 13 points, 7 boards, 3 assists, and 2 steals. Another start for him. He's continuing to lock up that spot and prove that if Whitmore jumps to the starting lineup, they're probably going to have to keep Mark Armstrong in there and move Chris Archidiakono to the bench. So not only with Whitmore and Armstrong having good games, but Brandon Housen, again, he's been on fire from 3. That's what this guy's in there to do, is knock down shots. People are saying he's one of the best shooters that they've ever had, let alone one of the best on this team. So 3 of 4 from him off the bench. That's if that's all he can do is just knock down threes, he will get minutes on this team. So from a program who doesn't really play freshmen much, their incoming freshman class this year had a terrific game, all 3 of them. So I thought that was a big takeaway for me. And then also we talked about how bad this team is at rebounding. They're one of the worst teams in Division I in rebound percentage and all that, and in total rebounds per game. But they out-rebounded Boston College 37-33, so that's definitely a positive you can take away, that they able to hit the glass and out-rebound BC. Obviously, BC, we kind of talked about them having to deal with a lot of injuries. Quentin Post, who's a 7-footer who would have helped out in that department, he has been out, hasn't played this year. And then Makai Ashton Langford was also out. He was a game-time decision, ended up not playing due to a hamstring injury. So BC was down 2 guys, including a guy who in Post who's projected to be their starting center. But between the rebounding and then the prowess of these freshmen, they really collectively, all 3 of them, you could even make the argument that this was all 3 of their best games in a Nova uniform so far. And the freshmen really shined through and brought them to win here. So between the freshmen playing very well, not really what we're used to with a Villanova program that always plays the upperclassmen, and then the rebounding, which they haven't been good at, all around a great game for them. And you're seeing just how much of a better team this team is with Cam Whitmore. Now they're on a little win streak here. They're going to get into conference play soon. Hopefully Justin Moore's back within the next month. So we said last episode, stocks up on Villanova. That continues to shoot up. A lot of good energy from this team, a lot of good wins. good performances, some young players in addition to their veterans. So all around a great win for Villanova. They keep stacking wins here. Cam Whitmore, man. I mean, this guy's unbelievable. He's going to be a top 5 or top 10 pick if he keeps playing at this level. He's one of the best that Nova's ever had as far as freshmen go. And I mean, this dude's hit the ground running right away. I mean, this guy's taken no time to get acclimated to the college game. He's ready to go right now, and he's out there dominating. So this he is as advertised, and he has completely flipped around this Nova team that was kind of in a rut, losing all those games in Portland, and he's really changed the energy around there.
Yeah, you just kind of like recognize when like the difference between when he was available to play and when he was not available to play earlier in the season. Like there's just like that. I think there's a sense around the team that's like, all right, our guy's here. Like he is our most talented player. Like, yes, Justin Moore is also very good when he's comes back too, but it's different because he's more of like the point guard, floor general, senior leader, that kind of stuff. Whereas Cam Whitmore is like the raw talent that like when his presence is on the basketball court, and there's pretty much no situation where he's not the best basketball player on the floor. And that does a lot for the psyche of a team. Like not even just the X's and O's, which obviously he makes them so much better, but like it just when you know that no one can stop a guy that's in your uniform, it just brings up the confidence level of everyone else. And I think you see that with, Mark Armstrong having good games, Hausen having good games. Obviously you have Caleb Daniels and Eric Dixon there, who are kind of the leaders right now with Justin Moore out. So like, you get the sense that, and we talked about this last episode, that like, there's just a relief that, like, Cam Whitmore's here. Like we have like a really talented person who can help us win these games, because they lost some close games, especially in Portland, like around that time, and to Temple too, obviously. So if they had him in those games, we'd be talking much differently about Nova, as instead of like a bounce back story, they'd be like, this team's here. And they honestly, maybe they'd even be in the top 25. So this team is definitely stock up. They're definitely going places. Where they rank in terms of the Big East play, coming up, it'll be tough to see because UConn's playing like a national championship team right now. But they could definitely slide in those next few slots behind them. I could definitely see that Creighton's struggling right now too. So they were projected to be, probably second or third in the Big East too. So it'll be really interesting to see. But definitely stock up on this Nova team, more so than anyone else in the Big Five. So kudos to them. All right, one more game I'm going to break down now. I want to try to say stock up for St. Joe's too, but like it was kind of an ugly win against St. Peter's. They beat them 73-57. Both teams actually had double-digit leads in this game, so kind of an interesting thing there. Obviously, St. Joe's going on the run later in the game. Cameron Brown, 17-6, another good game from him, 6 of 11 shooting. Eric Reynolds only taking 9 shots this game, which I was a little surprised of. He had 4 of his 9, had 15 points himself. This is some of the things that start to concern me. They did force 18 turnovers, which is good. Definitely does not concern me. But they had 14 of their own. Anytime you get above double digits in turnovers, it's a little concerning. They also, I think, got a little bit lucky that St. Peter's only shot 28% from the field. Granted, some of that's credit to their defense, but St. Peter's also took like a pretty fair more amount of shots than the Hawks did. They were also out rebounded 37-26, which is not going to work a lot of times, especially in a tough A10. So yes, there were some positives to take away from this game. Obviously a win is a win. You definitely want to do that more times than you don't, let me tell you. But what do you see from this St. Joe's win that's good, but also like what's going to concern you going forward with kind of some of the negatives that were in this game?
So I'll start with the negatives first. We can get that out of the way, and we can talk about a win for them, which at this point in the Big Five, we'll take any win we can get. So obviously, the win is positive, but I'll get to the negatives first. So obviously, all the turnovers you bring up, they're lucky that St. Peter's didn't shoot a great percentage. You mentioned that they took a lot more shots than St. Joe's. That was because of their 37 rebounds, 17 were on the offensive end. There's literally a direct correlation with that. You get more opportunities, you're going to put up more shots. So they can't get out rebound, especially to a team like that. And then, for them to have that bad of a first half, and for St. Peter's to have the lead that they did without Jalen Murray too, no less. I mean, it was an awful first half, but in the second half, they went on the run. St. Peter's, their shooting percentage just kind of caught up with them, that they couldn't make anything. Guy want to I will now, getting to the positives. A guy who needs to play a lot more and potentially start for this team is Rasheer Fleming. 10 points before big blocks. I don't know why he really didn't play that much in the Temple game. He needs to be one of the first guys off the bench or potentially start. If they want to spread the floor with some bigs and I think give themselves a little more size on defense, they could move him in the starting lineup for Christian Wimborne. Clearly, St. Joe's isn't afraid to start a freshman. I think they could interchange those guys depending on who they're playing. Christian Wimborne, 8 points in this game. He's been kind of off and on this year, but that's to expect from a freshman. The way the staff talks about him, he's going to be there for a long time. Is going to be a very important part for this team moving forward. But if they feel the need to give themselves some more size on defense, have a guy who's not a legit 7-footer, but can still protect the rim very well, they could put Rasheer Fleming in there. He can stretch the floor. He can hit some threes, but his defense has been really good this year. And if it gets to that point, I think St. Joe's could put him in the starting lineup and they won't really miss a beat. This guy he's young, he's raw, but he can stretch the floor. He can score a little bit. And defensively, he has been very, very good for them. So that's the main point positively that I want to bring up. Additionally, Cameron Brown building off of a very good game against Temple last week. 17 points for him. He led the Hawks in scoring again. So that's good to see because, like we were talking about, Lynn Greer struggled a little bit. Was better this game, definitely, than his last few. But again, he only had, I think, 10 points in this game. He had 3 turnovers. So, even when you have Lynn Greer that's not totally on, if you have a guy like Cameron Brown who can shoot the ball well and can put the ball in the basket for you, that's huge when your point guard isn't playing up to the standard that we know he can play at. So between Cameron Brown having another good game, another good scoring game, shooting the ball well, he grabbed 6 rebounds as well. And then Rasheer Fleming has been really good for this team. He was hurt. He got hurt in the Houston game, and then he missed a few games after that. But he needs to play more. He just does. I believe he logged more minutes than Obina and then definitely Charles Coleman in this game. But Rasheer Fleming, he's young, but he's good and he needs to play and he's going to help out this team on both ends. So between Cameron Brown and then Rasheer Fleming, like I said, those are the 2 main positives I took from this game. And he really is a hell of a player. He's one of the best freshmen. I know we want to talk about Mark Armstrong. We want to talk about Cam Whitmore, but Rasheer Fleming is a damn good freshman, not only in the Big Five, but in America right now. So he needs to play a lot more from this team. And I really do think we could actually see him in a starting lineup soon for the Hawks.
Yeah, I definitely think we'll be talking about Rasheer Fleming a lot more on this podcast, and we should be. So I don't know what Billy Lang, I don't know what the thought process is right now. Maybe just because he's recovering from his injury, because he's a freshman, whatever the deal is. But I think he definitely needs to play more minutes. He's obviously, like you mentioned, he's a really, really talented freshman. He might not be on the same level as Mark Armstrong or on the same level as Cam Whitmore, but he's probably not insanely far off either. So definitely get him more minutes. I think that would be really beneficial to a team that they just need to find answers. You know what I mean? Like they've had some tough losses this year against some not good opponents. And even, like in this game, in a win, was kind of ugly. And just like in their win against Penn, obviously it was great that they came back and they showed a lot of fight and very much kudos to them. But that first half was also really ugly. And the fact that they had to come back from all the way down was, it says something. I know things happen and people, it's sports, it's basketball, and you get in the hole sometimes you have to climb out of. And they showed a lot of heart with that. But I just think maybe the second half of that game was more of an anomaly than it is a regularity for them. So I wish it was more of a regularity for them, but until they prove it, it's going to be tough. But I think, playing your most talented players would be a good solution for that. So I think Rasheer Fleming should definitely enter the starting lineup at some point, if not at least get more minutes. So we'll see what Billy Lang does there. But yeah, that's we're actually not going to do any previews on this episode because all the games are on Saturday. Obviously, you mentioned Penn doesn't play Wilkes until the 28th. But we have 3 games on Saturday, so no games during the week. So we're not going to preview any games during this week. So we'll have another episode coming out later in the week about those games that are going to be played on Saturday. Before we get into our final thoughts, I wanted to share my final thought first. The man who is next to me on the screen is graduating from Temple on Thursday. 4.5 years. He did it. He took a little extra victory lap, which, I know you're proud of. So I know I can say that freely because, it's a good thing. And honestly, the reason is because you started at LaSalle and you transferred to Temple. And you had your internship at Penn, so you're kind of going for the whole friend on feet, Big Five legacy there, which I love, collecting all the Infinity Stones. So Cope, congratulations. I am proud of you. I know your family's proud of you, friends are proud of you. I know all of our listeners are proud of you. And I cannot wait to see what happens next. Hopefully, Penn, if you're listening, Penn, please hire my man. Please hire my man. I know he did good work for y'all. I know y'all liked his work. Please hire this man, whether it's in basketball or football. He would prefer basketball, but he would do football too, definitely. But yes, just wanted to give a shout out. So everybody, for seeing this, Instagram, Twitter, listening, whatever, go tell Jake Copestick congratulations. He did it.
I appreciate that, my man. You know that. Yeah, I used the transfer portal before it was cool, and I went from LaSalle to Temple. I kind of did the reverse Fran Dunphy, going from LaSalle to Temple to Penn. So that was pretty cool. I'm just trying to collect all my Infinity Stones. So Villanova and St. Joe's, if you're out there, you want to hire your boy, definitely reach out to me. But yeah, I appreciate you. I appreciate my friends, my family, all my professors at LaSalle, at Temple, at North Penn, at Penfield, hell, even General Nash Elementary School. Thank you to everybody along the way. Couldn't have done it without them. But thank you for that little shout out. I'm excited to graduate, and definitely sad it's coming to an end, but I'm excited for the future. So I appreciate you. You give me a little shout out here, and then the next time we're going to talk, I will be a Temple University alumni. So that'll be a weird feeling. I'll have to see, I'll have to see how that feels. But yeah, I appreciate you giving me a shout out. I'm excited to graduate on Thursday. Yeah, I appreciate you, my man. Give me a shout out, because
Of course,
it took a little longer than most people, but that's okay. 4.5 years.
Honestly, no, it really,
my victory.
that's probably a very normal amount of time. And anyone who's watching, if you're, taking a little longer to graduate college, that's okay.
Don't feel bad about it.
That's okay.
As long as you get that diploma in your hands, you're okay. Everybody goes at a different speed. It's all good. But I appreciate you, my brother, for giving me a shout out.
Always.
A little sad to be in the college, but like I said, very excited for what the future holds. So I'll keep everybody updated. Maybe Penn hires me back, but I'll be searching for full-time jobs in the meantime. So if you're listening to this and you know of anybody that might need some help in the sports industry, my DMs are always open.
There you go. All right. And we'll be celebrating on Thursday too with our friends. So I'm very excited for that. So that's all I got. And I think that's all you got. I don't know if, you don't want to talk about the Broncos, so that's okay.
Yeah. We can skip. Move right on from that.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, again, as always, thank you guys for tuning in, whether that's listening or watching or on social media. We very much appreciate your support, as always. And make sure to follow us too on those if you haven't already. Instagram and Twitter at Big Five Pod. Obviously, like and subscribe to our YouTube. And definitely check us out on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, the audio only versions there. And we're not stopping, obviously, because we got a lot of Big Five basketball left in the next few months. So we're very excited to bring you all the coverage of that as we continue forward. So without further ado, I always get that part wrong. It's not without further ado. We're not starting, we're ending. Until next time, everybody, I need to go to bed because we're recording this. It's like 11:30 on Monday night. So I need to go to bed. And I know Cope does too. So we will see you all later this week.